Hello, Monday. Let's start in Japan. And we'll end in Japan, so if you don't want to know anything about Japan, sayonara or whatever they say over there. Anyway, market, their PMIs. Japan's PMIs for manufacturing in blue, manufacturing production in orangey colour. It's not tragic. The thing to note on this one is you can see the great plunge down for the Great Recession, and the next plunge down, that was their nuclear leak, and things obviously rebounded after that. But there's a 50 line that goes across, and which is a 0 line on the other side, and it's below it on both. So Japan is in contraction. Okay, I'm just scanning the horizon for who is going to save the world, and it's not Japan. From this morning's Financial Times, Japanese businesses report a gloomy outlook. More gloom descended upon Japan's biggest manufacturing this quarter as a strong yen compounded the effects of China's slowdown and Europe's crisis, putting pressure on the central bank to add to last month's surprise monetary stimulus. They'll print more to do stuff with the money that they've printed, and try and get the yen down. The Bank of Japan's Tankan report showed that its key measure of business confidence fell to -3 from -1 in June, the fourth straight quarter that pessimists outnumbered optimists. That marks the longest string of negative readings since Japan emerged from the global recession in mid-2010. So that was this morning. This is in the Washington Post at the end of last week. It's the share price of the Japanese manufacturing, technology manufacturing outfits, the big ones. Sony down to 11.7. That light grey line, I couldn't fit it in, but it was up at 50 not long ago on that chart, which only goes back to 2007. That's a hell of a plunge for Sony. Panasonic down, Toshiba and Sharp. But you can imagine it. You know, there are companies like Apple and Samsung who are kicking bottom. But really, what are Sony, Panasonic, Toshiba and Sharp doing? Much of the same, and probably doing it very well, but they're not really. And that's what Japan's obviously famous for. They do lots and lots of things. It's actually a very big, powerful country, Japan. And obviously it's more to Japan than Sony, Panasonic, Toshiba and Sharp, but it's kind of representative of the non-dynamicness of Japan. Relative non-dynamicness. They're still an incredible country, let it be said. Right, Reuters. Japanese banks have staked more than $6 billion on two of the country's ailing electronic companies, Sharp Corporation and Renesas Electronic Corp, loans that resolve the firm's immediate cash crisis but fail to end doubts about their future. Basically, they're in trouble, and the banks are just doubling down, saying, well, we'll let them go bankrupt and get what we can back, or lend them some more money. And there's quite a lot of that sort of stuff going on. Finish. That's it. Oh, I thought I had one more. I did. Anyway, it's always to be remembered, and why is the yen so strong? Japan has enormous forex reserves, second only to China. They've got $1 trillion plus of those, which is good. But there's a strange. Japan basically owes its own Japanese people all the money. You could say that half the money's in the reserves that are lent abroad, and half has been invested in Japanese bridges. And we know that the Japanese people are aging very quickly and are wanting that money back. So they're pulling it back from their post office, where most of it is. And it's just it's like a Ponzi scheme that's coming to an end. Other Ponzi schemes, like United States type Ponzi schemes, are okay because there's an increasing population still. Even in the UK, their type of Ponzi schemes are working because there's an increasing population. But in Japan, pension schemes, social security schemes, only work with an increasing population, and Japan just does not have that. And it just seems to have lost that, whatever it had of 25 years ago. So I'm just scanning around the G7 to see who's going to, as it looks like the world is slipping into a bit of a recession. And it's just one of those slippy recessions where it would come out of a recession if it was balanced by somebody else somewhere in the world doing something brilliant. China, we know, is slipping slightly. The United States is about the only driver of world, let's call it, demand. And the only thing that's really keeping the United States going is running over $1 trillion deficits every year. So it's almost like the world is hanging on by the fingernails, and the fingernails are the United States' $1 trillion deficits. Doesn't sound like a solid foundation for anything to me. Anyway, that's it for Monday. Thanks, bye.